House of the Dragon Season 3. People loved Season 1, and people are very mixed on Season 2. I personally absolutely enjoyed it. The small details, the setups, the payoffs, mwah, absolutely loved it. Except a couple of things, obviously, but still, I would say that Season 2 was still an easy 8 out of 10 for me. But now Season 3 has problems, and obviously they're caused by R. Martin George. Can he just stick to writing books like he's supposed to? He's just a bitter old loser who wants all the money, now has money, and now wants people to sing and praise him because all his life he is just living in Tolkien's shadow. Can he just stick to writing books and completely disappear in all other senses? I am tired of that old fart.
You know your part. You know what you must do.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. George R. Martin just ripped HBO and House of the Dragon. He posted a very heated blog post complaining about this.
What a loser, by the way. I just can't emphasize enough how much of a loser George R. Martin honestly is. He signs off on all of this stuff, by the way. He says, yeah, go do it, it's gonna be great, blah, blah, blah. And then it turns out people don't like it, and then he gets sad because he just wants adoration of, well, literally anyone and anything, honestly. Ugh, I'm so tired of that loser.
Several changes on House of the Dragon the show has made in how those changes would negatively affect the Season 3 and Season 4 plot. He referred to them as the butterfly effect and toxic butterflies, like there are more changes that they have discussed that will cause even bigger ripple effects in eventual Season 4. The reason why he goes as far ahead as Season 4 is because they previously announced that would be the final season of the show.
Nice.
So basically, George R. Martin outlined all these grievances he had against the show and how they'll affect the rest of the show. It's very lengthy. He brought the receipts.
By the way, if you have grievances against House of the Dragon, yeah, okay, it's understandable. The fact that Season 2 ended on a cliffhanger, really annoying, I agree. But, other than that, I do like the setups and I do like a lot of things. But, I mean, Martin, just go write the stupid books, you loser. No one cares about you as a human. As a human, you're just a detestable, old, miserable dude who cries about everything.
Gets into gritty detail on a lot of things, so we'll break it all down. And some of them are pretty spoilery, which is why I think he probably deleted the post right after he made it. We'll get into that too, because he posted this really long diatribe about all of his grievances, then within a couple hours of that, just completely deleted the post. Very epic tweeting and deleting on his part. Some of the things that he addresses, I've actually already discussed in my previous Season 2 and Season 3 videos recently because we've known about some of the changes they made and how they will probably affect the future of the story. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. Whatever they do wind up doing, I will do videos for Season 3, Season 4. I also just did a trailer video for Night of the Seven Kingdoms. That's coming out next year. Those are the episodes we'll be getting next year. Interestingly enough, he has not griped about Night of the Seven Kingdoms. He's actually spoken very highly of that.
Oh my god. If you haven't figured this out, by the way, George R. Martin literally praises everything until the point that people start to go against that, and then he just switches because he wants... Again, the guy literally only cares about adoration. That's all that he cares about. He just loves being in the spotlight. He just loves being showered with praise. So he's gonna literally go exactly in the direction that the praise is gonna be. So if saying a season of a show is bad, he's instantaneously gonna start saying, oh yeah, the season of the show was not how I wanted, I'm a genius, blah, 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 blah. No, he signed off on all of this, by the way. He signed off on everything that happened in the House of the Dragon Season 1 and 2, and probably Season 3. He's just being a miserable old loser. And that's it. Again, go write your books before you're dead, because, you probably don't have a lot of time left.
Upcoming series in his previous post. He sounds like he's pretty excited for that. So we should preface this whole post of his by saying that even though he totally does rip House of the Dragon and the writers of the new one, mostly the showrunner, mostly he's mad about him, George R. Martin has spoken very highly of the show in the past, and he does, in general, he does like the show. It's just some of the specific changes that he's really pissed off about.
Well, funny you should ask. Let me get my map.
There've been a couple times where he said specifically that the way they've changed the characters on the show have made those characters better than they are in his books. So there have been times in the past where he said the show version has been better than his version, but not in the case of this blog.
I haven't read the books, but I know people who talk about this and have read the books. And a lot of changes. Now, listen, the thing with changes from book to an adaptation in this format is that you hear about the bad things that are adapted and people don't like them, but you don't hear about the things that were changed from the book or added and blah, blah, blah that are actually good. And a lot of things that people love about this series are actual changes and not book accurate.
Post, like some of the things he talks about are things that are vastly different. The ironic thing about that is that one of the characters that he said was better on the show than in his book version is tied up as a big part of this major gripe that he has against the show. Just starting with the biggest stuff he was complaining about, like at the beginning of his post, he mentioned multiple changes but only spoke about a few of them in very great detail. But based on what the show has done with everybody so far up to this point, I think we have some idea of what he was talking about. He starts with the events of Blood and Cheese and how the show has gotten rid of Aegon and Helena's third child, Maelor. This is where he starts to get into his butterfly effect and how removing Maelor from the show is one example of how the future story will be negatively affected and it will cause bigger ripple effects in the story. On the show, the Blood and Cheese event was changed a lot. They implied that Daemon was the one who told them that it should be a son for son and bring them ahead of a son no matter what. They couldn't find Aemond, who was in Flea Bottom getting some of his naked mommy therapy at the brothel. And because they were ordered it should be a son for son, they went for the nearest son they could find in Helena's room. They order her to tell them which child is Jaehaerys because they both have long hair, they look identical. She winds up giving up Jaehaerys, who they kill and get caught by the Kingsguard and the Gold Cloaks while trying to escape with his head. In the books, they say Daemon told Mysaria to hire Blood and Cheese, and she's the one who conducts the transaction and gives them the orders that it should be a son for a son. So they put way.
Yeah, this is one of the bad changes. Like, look at this. You already probably feel anger in your soul. I do. It's bubbling up. This is the most annoying, stupidest character ever. She's just there, randomly, for no reason, and she's supposed to be smart, and yet everything she does is stupid. Oh, it's so unlikable, detestable. Okay? Alicent, also now not that great. I mean, Alicent is still better than Rhaenyra, obviously. Rhaenyra is also, like, you know, mud-bottom trash at this point. But she just ruins every single scene that she was in. Like, if a scene has her in it, you might as well just skip it. Because honestly, you're not missing out on anything. You're just saving yourself actual enjoyment. Because she's horrible. She just needs to get her rid of. She has to go. She's horrible.
Way more of this on Mysaria than they put on Daemon on the show. There was no mention of Aemond being the intended target in the books, just that it was a son for a son. It could be any son at all. They eventually happened upon Helena, who had 3 children in the books, 2 of them boys, Jaehaerys, the older one, who was Aegon's heir apparent, and Maelor, the youngest son. They order Helena to pick which one they'll kill because it's meant to be random. They don't care which son it is. It just needs to be a son for a son. Helena picks Maelor because he's further down the line of succession, and if Jaehaerys survives, Aegon will still have his heir. But they detect her trick and kill Jaehaerys instead. Then the rest goes down pretty much the way it went down on the show. George R. R. Martin was furious that the show got rid of Maelor.
Who cares? Again, only the book people are actually mad about the Blood and Cheese thing. I mean, I wouldn't say it was the best, but I wouldn't call it bad. It was kind of like, okay, well, yeah, this is Game of Thrones-ish, and that's kind of it, you know? But the book people really hated this one. I don't know. As a non-book reader, I thought it was fine, okay? Only the book readers are really mad about this one.
Maelor completely. Like, he thought they were delaying his arrival on the show. Then he says he learned eventually they would not do the character at all. And that's when he really started to get mad. All because of the series.
Okay, listen, again, retcons. In the original Game of Thrones, in the series, From season 1 to, well, which one was the, I already have forgotten. Which one was the season where everything started going downhill pretty rapidly? 7? 6? I think it was 6 or something like that. But, where the quality really started to deteriorate. It was just a bunch of cock jokes and whatnot. That. Before that point, there were so many retcons to the books. Again, people made like 3 hour long videos about, okay, these are all the retcons and things that the season 1 didn't show for getting completely skipped. There were so many changes. And they were fine. Again, you don't know about the changes that were done, but were not fine. Also, is he making double spaces when...
There's butterfly effects that Maelor's absence would negatively impact the rest of the story. He said when Ryan Condal, the showrunner, informed him that they were going to change the scene when they were writing season 2 back in 2022, like long before they ever filmed it, he said he argued against the change because he felt like it weakened the blood and cheese scene. It's way more hardcore in the books. If it wasn't clear, George R. R. Martin has written a lot on House of the Dragon. He's been much more involved creatively in crafting the show and the story than he was on the original Game of Thrones show. I think that was partly because of the backlash for Game of Thrones.
I think that's an obvious lie. He would not... This old fat dude would never miss out on an opportunity to get more adoration and praise from the people, okay? He just chooses to take a step back when things are bad and take a step in when things are good. That's all he's doing, okay? That's why he's traveling the world and going to every place that calls upon his name. That's it.
In season 8, HBO probably brought him in as a creative force in a bigger way than he was involved in the original show, hoping that that would help things. Also because House of the Dragon doesn't nearly have as much material to adapt directly as the original show did. Like, there's only a small amount of book material that House of the Dragon is able to cover, so they have to write in a lot of new story for all these characters. So far, George R. R. Martin has been working with them every step of the way on that. As he says, he hasn't always agreed with some of the changes that they've made in service of that. He goes on to say that he still loves the Blood and Cheese episode overall. Like, he actually likes the show. He loved the episode. He just really hated that they cut the Maelor character and how that's going to negatively impact the future of the story in his eyes. Because Maelor not being on the show means that he's not involved in any of the future events that he was part of in the books, and he's involved in some very big events and becomes motivation for some very big things happening later on, which will all have to change now that he isn't around. This is where George R. R. Martin gets into very specific, very nitty-gritty moments from the future of the story. So he says Maelor's eventual death later in the story becomes part of the motivation for Helena to eventually kill herself, which is obviously a huge moment. Because he's not around, they'll have to completely change the motivation for her death. Like during season 2, most of us thought that they were implying that Aemond was threatening to kill Helena, and maybe he be the reason that she died. Like, she wouldn't try to kill herself, it would actually be Aemond killing her, or someone else killing her. It'd be a huge...
Yeah, seems completely plausible to me that she just decides to off herself because they kind of have set it up that she doesn't want to take part in the SWAT. She literally doesn't understand a lot of this stuff and she hates it. And when her family all just, croaks, what's the point of her living?
Huge change from the books. And originally in the books, the way that Helena dies, the reason why she dies, becomes a big tipping point for King's Landing turning against Rhaenyra, who was ruling over King's Landing at the time, having captured the city with Daemon's help, which we know is going to happen at the beginning of Season 3. Already you can start to see some of the big changes. I talked about this during my Season 2 finale video. Rhaenyra spoke of
That's a lot of spoilers.
Helena as if she was this gentle soul and wanted nothing bad to happen to her at all. Like, they're completely changing that whole dynamic between all of them. In the books, the way that Helena dies, the reason why she dies, eventually leads to major riots, and George R. R. Martin specifically mentions some other very spoilery moments that the small folk get up to in the story, so I don't want to get too deep into that, just because it is crazy spoilery. But the story is done that they're adapting. Like, you can go out and read it right now if you want to read ahead. You don't want to wait for Season 3 and Season 4. But the idea is that the small folk blame Rhaenyra for Helena's death and begin to write crazy around King's Landing. Like, it's really bad. Probably the best way to dodge spoilers here is to say the small folk eventually destroy the thing that is most precious to all Targaryens. Then this leads the small folk to support Aegon over Rhaenyra, and it helps lead to Rhaenyra's eventual death, why that winds up happening in the story further on. So the idea is that Maelor
Yeah, that's a lot of spoilers. I think I'm done with the spoilers. But anyway, again, who cares? Who cares about all of these changes? It can still happen. Okay, listen. You just remove a reason why something happened, but you can still create another reason why things happen. By removing something, it doesn't mean that the future of that event needs to just vanish. You can just replace the thing. And this is how these things have worked for forever. Anyway, I guess that's it. Don't want any spoilers. Emergency awesome. Bye.